Hello, hello, my beautiful patrons. Thank you for joining me here. This is Kathy speaking. I have promised that we will analyze the charts of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump to see who's got the bigger chance of becoming the next president. It is today, actually, this is done on the 1st of November, so 4 days before the elections. Now, I am not going to read this in a biased way. I've got my own opinion, but I don't want to really lean towards who I think is best to serve the country. We're looking at the astrology here. Now, we'll be talking about some things. We will not be analyzing her whole chart, but we'll also be looking at her progress chart, which is a hypothetical way of looking at her planets that have progressed as she's come up to her second Saturn return, which is what she's gone through recently. She's just recently, not so long ago, has gone through her second Saturn return. We know that's never an easy time. It could be a time of success. Let's not rule that out. I will point out what I feel is important, and I will let you decide as to what looks to be more helpful. Whose stars promise the leadership of the United States of America? There's a T-square on Mars, so she's feeling that heat under her collar, surely. And look at what else we've got here. We've got Pluto. Look at this Grand Cross, my dear friends. This is a big no for Harris. It's not easy for her at all. And it won't be. She's under a lot of pressure. This is like being crossed out. We've got a major Grand Cross, like saying, Harris, you're crossed out. For her, if Jupiter would pass over her ascendant, and I'm going to say also her north node, that would have helped her greatly. She's just missing out. You know, when Jupiter, which is the planet of luck and abundance and protection, when he's transiting your 10th or 11th house, this does speak to success for me. Even though Jupiter, now retrograde, is in Gemini, in the house opposite his rulership, he's still got a very strong Jupiterian help. Here it is. Okay, so his progressions, which is a hypothetical movement of his planets. Uranus is at 21 of Gemini. You could see this here. This is where transiting Jupiter stationed to turn retrograde, and this is trining his Chiron. As you could see, his progress chart, he's got Scorpio rising. I want you to notice his moon. It's at 9 degrees of Scorpio. Remember, we had a new moon in Scorpio. The new moon in Scorpio on the 1st of November was exactly at the 9th degree of Scorpio. So this is a new moon on his progressed chart in his first house. This is very, very significant and very, very helpful for Trump. Scorpio and Leo, they do square each other. So this new moon took place on his progressed moon. It was a new moon, and it's squaring over to his midheaven, which will challenge him, surely. Saturn, though, is also on his midheaven. Now, Saturn can speak to responsibility. You know that the 10th house is naturally ruled by Capricorn, therefore Saturn is placed well. Now, we spoke about the full moon at 24 degrees on the 15th of November, which will be on Trump's midheaven in Taurus, and Harris's retrograde Jupiter in her 12th house. Now, the moon is always exalted in Taurus, but remember, this full moon is going to have Uranus on it. So it's going to have a surprising factor, and things will be shown to us that were hidden, because the full moon is we're seeing things. It's like a big magnifying glass. Both of them have been born on full moons, but he's been born on an eclipse, on a lunar eclipse. Remember what we said about the ancient Hellenistic system, that Saturn is her greatest malefic. And maybe it's not time yet, I'm saying. And it's not only trining over to her sun, but also sextiling over to her moon. And her moon is in the sign ruled by Mars, and Mars is in retrograde. And also, because Regulus is at the 29th, actually Regulus has moved to the 0 degrees of Virgo now. Regulus, which means leadership, right? Regulus would be here at her fourth house, on the cusp of her fourth house, but Saturn is in opposition. And opposition, we know, is a challenging aspect, but it's also an aspect that is like a full moon. So we're going to see that, because Saturn is usually the lord of timing, karma, limitation, and restrictions. And her Saturn is at the 29th anaretic degree. It's an urgent degree. So I don't know, because remember, Saturn had retrograded at the 0 degree. So on her midheaven in Pisces, moved forward and then retrograded back. And her progressed Saturn is at the 0 degree, which is in exact opposition to Regulus. So if she's wanting this position up here, then her opposition is Trump, who is Regulus. He's got Regulus on his ascendant. So I've listened to some others as well. I've listened to other analysis. Yes, there are many things that maybe I'm not seeing. Maybe there are things that I deem as being more helpful for one and less for the other. It could go any way. It's a real gamble trying to predict this. Anything can happen, as I said, because it's not only what's going on in the sky, and there are many exaggerations sometimes when we think that one aspect is more important than the other. So astrology is very mathematical indeed. Now, there are some positive points for Harris, but I'm going to say Pluto in opposition to Mars 3 times will affect her midpoint. Because, as I said, I mean, it's the Pluto-Mars opposition which is squaring her sun and her moon, causing a grand cross, right? So if this is her midpoint here, and Pluto is here and Mars is here, transiting, I mean, there is the grand cross again. So this grand cross is also hitting the midpoint between her ascendant and her midheaven, which could be a downfall relative to her winning. This will happen 3 times. She may be targeted and in danger of a terrorist attack or an assassination attempt. And please note, this midpoint is on her radix moon, and it's a full moon, which can bring an ending or career completion. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is also in a T-square to her progressed ascendant.